Welcome back to AJ's Garage. We're gonna have a little one for you today. The big thing is I somehow got a hole in the line on my TIG welder that carries the argon to the actual torch head. So I can't really weld with the TIG welder anymore. And most of the stuff I want to do, I don't really want to use the flux core welder, just due to the fact it makes really ugly welds, and it's really tough with a flux core, especially a cheap welder, to successfully weld a really thin piece of metal to a thick piece of metal, which is all the spreader plates, because they're all sitting on that body metal, which is pretty thin, and the spreader plates are 1/8 inch plate. So it's really easy to either run too little power to get a good weld into the 1/8 inch plate, or burn through the floor or the body of the vehicle in order to get enough penetration into the 1/8 inch plate. I don't know, I ordered a new one, not sure how long it's going to take, might be a little bit, but in the meantime, we do have some stuff we got to do on this car. We got to remove the AC compressor, we're going to move the AC condenser, and all the lines. However, there are some other things we got to do on the car that I haven't done just because I wanted to get the cage done. But since I want to wait until I can use the TIG welder again to finish the cage, we're going to get started on a few things on the front of this car. We got to remove the AC compressor still. We got to remove the AC condenser, all the AC lines, and then just kind of generally, I guess, look over the front of the car. I also want to take the radiator out, flush it, straighten any bent sections or fins. So I figured this would be a good time, so let's get the front bumper cover off. In case you don't know, technically, even though it's what we all say, including us, this isn't the bumper, this is the bumper cover. Underneath there's a structural element, and that would be the actual bumper. Doesn't really matter, but we're gonna get this off, start looking at the front of the car. Alright, figured I'll show you something quick before I totally pull it out. On older vehicles that don't have a throttle body that's driven by a motor. So in other words, there's a throttle cable here that connects the butterfly valve in the throttle directly to the gas pedal. So when you step on the gas, it pulls this throttle, or it pulls this cable, opens the throttle. Well, cruise control does the same thing. So in here is a little motor that'll pull a cable that'll also pull the throttle. We don't need cruise control where we're going, so I'm working on pulling that out. Alright, I think I'm an idiot and I forgot to actually hit the record button, so I'll just kind of recap what I did. This is the thermostat right here. It's the housing's unbolted, but this is the thermostat housing. So again, this is it right here. There's 3 bolts and an electrical line that were on it. So I took the bolt out, or the 3 bolts. This is the thermostat gasket. And this right here is a thermostat. So basically how this works is inside that there's a wax pellet. And as the wax heats up and expands, it pushes the actual plunger that seals coolant flow and allows coolant flow through that hole. So this is what I was talking about. I think if we get rid of this, then we just have a straight hole here, but let's see if I can. Alright. There's our thermostat. There we go on the other side. So now this is just a hole for coolant to pass through. So this will no longer be controlling coolant flow. It's just going to be coolant getting pumped around the motor the entire time. What I'm doing right now is just cleaning the housing on the engine side. Make sure it's nice and clean so we get a good seal with this gasket. So here we have the cleaned gasket. We're just gonna plop it in there. Make sure it's pressed in nicely. Reassemble this guy. One of the other things I gotta figure out is the heater bypass. You can kind of trace it, but these are the two lines that went to the heater core. So you've got 1 and 2. Basically, we need to install a piece of pipe to just loop those two together. I think what I'm gonna try and do to clean up the back of this is take those off at that housing, measure them, and then just buy a heater core bypass. They're really common for LS's, for LS swaps, and I think they're like $9 to $10 on Amazon. So let's see if we can pop those off quick. For you wannabe mechanics or mechanics out there, having a variety of tools to get hose clamps off, like this one is really nice because it's got this wedge on one side and then this on the other, and it's pretty good at grabbing these different style hose clamps. And then there's this tool, which is just designed to slide under the hose and kind of break the connection between the hose and the fitting it's on. Another trick is if you can get the hose to twist, you've pretty much broken that seal and it should pretty much come right off. And there are the heater hoses. So this one's a little bit more than 1 5/8, but I think we can squeeze that on there. And then this one is just over 1 3/4. And then this guy is the factory add-on transmission cooler out of my GMC 1500 truck. So I think this will be a better cooler than the factory one. So the factory one, you can't really see it from here, but goes into the bottom of the radiator. And I'll use this top tank. So in here you have this plastic tank. Basically what they have is lines going in, and then you have a cooler section inside this coolant tank. And so the coolant is, I guess, both warming the transmission fluid when it's cold and then cooling it when the transmission is running hotter than the coolant. Which obviously works since auto manufacturers do it. However, we have this. I have been slapping mosquitoes non-stop since I've been out here. It's unreal. I've probably killed a dozen of them so far. They just keep coming. They're Zerg swarming me. Anyway, so I think what we're gonna do is mount it. I don't really want lines going out like that. I bet
maybe we could jig something up, mount it sideways, and then run the lines through this side and then back out right here, because it's kind of tough to see. This is one of the transmission cooler lines, and then this is another one. So I think if we just ran it along the side of the radiator here and out to this guy. Yes, maybe we could put it like that. So you can see, I think this is going to be a better solution than the OEM cooling one. Again, it would be an auxiliary cooler for the truck, which has a 5.3 liter V8 in it and is designed to tow, I think mine's capable of towing 8,000 pounds. And it weighs, what, 5,000 pounds? So I think if this is an augmented cooler for a truck like that, it should work just fine for this car. I'm hoping. Worst case, they do sell really cheap transmission / oil coolers on Amazon. I was looking there, you can get them for 30-40 bucks. And I'm pretty sure they're bigger than this. So that might be a decent option too, is do that at least for the transmission. If not, if we want an oil cooler, we can go that route. It's going to cost a little bit of money just because we're going to need the lines and the sandwich plate for the oil filter. But hopefully this helps you guys kind of understand what I was talking about as far as taking out the factory transmission cooler and then putting this in its place. Because obviously water to air is, I guess, water to transmission coolant is more efficient. However, you only have the capability to cool it down to 180 or 190 or whatever the coolant temperature. Hopefully it's not higher than 200 or so. So this will be right in front getting ambient air temperature. I think it's going to be a better solution. But let me know what your thoughts are. I think that's going to do it for this video. Just kind of a short update. And then later this weekend, we'll get working on actually mounting this stuff or figuring out how we're going to mount it. Have a good one.